Through these doors behind me is the lair of a 24,000-pound aquatic salamander that will stop at nothing to kill me. And believe me, he can. But years ago, a plugin was created that not only gave players a huge strategic advantage, but changed the entire PVM culture in old school RuneScape forever. That's all there is to it. What do I get for that? Oh. Okay. Ground markers have become an essential utility for a lot of players, helping them beat bosses, save spots, master game mechanics. But I'll tell you one thing that ground markers does not help you with, and that's your hygiene. There's actually only a 0.02% increase in your hygiene from toggling on ground markers, which is not significant, barely noticeable. So for your hygiene, we're gonna have to use a different plugin, Manscaped. And to be honest, it's not even a plugin at all. It's a company, a very real one. I've talked about them a lot over the years. And they're the sponsor of today's video. If you've been here for a while, you know that so is Manscaped. One of my most prized possessions, the beard hedger. This is an actual miraculous piece of engineering by humans. Manscaped keeps putting out new lawnmowers. When you think they're the safest they can be, they just keep inventing new skin-safe technologies, crunching the numbers, seeing how they can prevent us from cutting our balls. Allow me to show you a little secret called the Handyman. If you suck at time management, it'll shave your face. It'll shave your face. They have the Boxers 2.0 out now. I have become a huge advocate of wearing supportive boxers. The only boxers I wear are medical grade boxers and Manscaped boxers. I am not kidding. And if anything, I just checked, they do sell these shirts. Softest shirt you'll ever wear. Get 20% off plus free international shipping by going to manscaped.com/J1MMY. Use my code at checkout. Get yourself something nice. You deserve it. Maybe you don't. I'll give you a 30-minute pass of you deserving something nice. Only valid on manscaped.com though. Thanks to Manscaped for sponsoring today's video. I just want to preface this before we get into anything here. I am in no way against ground markers or tile indicators, NPC highlights, anything that we talk about today. I kind of just want to look at all of them from the same way I looked at construction during my Evolution of Construction video, just how the players have essentially evolved the game itself based on a trendy sort of play style, just how we started looking at the game differently. So I have a lot of audience members that are either unfamiliar with RuneScape or extremely casual about it, but I also have audience members who are in so incredibly deep that they can't separate RuneScape from reality. So I'm gonna pull us all back for a second, get us all on the same equal observation deck. We're all seeing it from the same angles together. Let's go back to RuneScape preschool and talk about movement. RuneScape is just a big grid. A grid with a ton of squares on it. In each one of those squares is another grid of squares, some of which are walkable. RuneScape movement is not a full 360 degrees like you see in most video games. We are limited to increments of 45-degree angles, 8 of them. You get to choose your favorite direction to go. You've got 8 to choose from. Pick your favorite one, or the one that doesn't get you killed. It's up to you. To make your character walk on a square, you point your mouse and click on it. And when you click on a square, you can get there at 100% speed of walking or 200% speed of running. Nice. So now that you've mastered RuneScape movement, it's time we talk about our first adult subject of the day, game ticks. Game ticks are simply how often the game's updated. In 2009, RuneScape's creator Andrew Gower planted the seed of ultimate efficiency by revealing on a public forum that RuneScape operates on an internal game clock of 600 milliseconds, 100 BPM, every 0.6 seconds, 100 ticks a minute. But even if we did see him say that in 2009, it meant nothing to us because we were all 12. But now, this 600 millisecond internal clock has effectively ruined the lives thousands of people setting off this fuse, this puzzle finally being connected in their brain that set off endorphins and dopamine in ways they've never felt before, causing them to train virtual levels on this character on the internet for thousands and thousands of hours, just because they see this number getting higher than it was a second ago, 0.6 seconds ago, my mistake. And they just keep going and going and going. So anyway, why am I telling you these things? These very basic things. The combination of RuneScape's very simple and limited movement mechanics alongside the internal game clock and understanding the ticks, it caused this mass realization that there did in fact exist a god amongst RuneLite plugins. Up until 2017, Oldschool's endgame was God Wars Dungeon, Zulrah, Corp, which today are more in the intermediate range of PvM. But at the time, that was all there was. That was it. That was your endgame. In 2017, Oldschool received its first raid, Chambers of Xeric. Before Chambers released, it was pretty implied that it was never meant to be soloable.
You can go in solo if you like, but we're making no promises that you'll be able to make it through alive.
But if you got real technical about this boss and its mechanics, you could kind of see what square you needed to be clicking on at exactly what time. When his head's moving a certain way, you could draw it out. You could see it in your head if you tried. But what if you didn't need to imagine this in your head? What if there was a way to just have it visualized on your screen? No, nothing like that. That'd be crazy. The same year of Chambers of Xeric, we also got another extremely tough PvM challenge, arguably still the toughest PvM challenge in the game, the Inferno. A strictly solo, wave-based boss challenge fight thing, minigame, fucking cape. You get a cape at the end. And this was the true test of a player's game knowledge and just how well they knew the RuneScape mechanics. Prayer flicking, safe spots, movement, positioning, the combat triangle, supply management, you name it. You had to not only know it, but you had to master it. One mistake in this place, and you're back to the start. On day 3 of its release, real-life magician RuneScape legend Woox was the very first person to defeat Zuck, the final boss of the Inferno, and introduce the very first Infernal Cape to the world of old-school RuneScape. The Inferno and Chambers demanded a lot more concentration than players were used to when it came to any form of PvM they'd done before, not to mention having the stats and gear to get the job done in the first place. For these challenges, you really had to just think about how this game works. This ground is no longer this greenish gravel. No. None of that's real. It's just a video game surface that someone painted in a program. I gotta think in squares. Four points, 4 of them. There's 4 on a square. And I'm gonna start separating these squares into sections. I must go to this section of squares when his head's over there. I must go to that square to make sure it isn't fair. Run around this square as long as you care and avoid that square for a chance at a rare. In April of 2018, ground markers were introduced on RuneLite and pushed out to the world. I spoke to Adam, the creator of RuneLite, about this. In a span of about 70 days, basically the entire player base that were using third-party clients shifted to RuneLite once they found out it was open source and all of these plugins that were normally premium only, they were now completely free and being actively updated on RuneLite. So this mass migration definitely played a big role in these ground markers starting to pop up everywhere. You saw them pop up in tutorials and YouTube videos and streams. Everyone was just kind of hopping on board. It definitely opened the doors to PvM for a lot of players. If you've ever tried something like Chambers of Xeric and just the first time you're in that room and you're trying to dodge the crystals and you're trying to pay attention to what prayers you need up and they're getting turned off and you got lightning fucking run around you, it's extremely overwhelming. So having just a little bit of visual assistance really opened up this opportunity for players to kind of slow it down in their heads and give it a shot, and suddenly they could play with their friends again. It helped players beat something for the first time, or players that were already experienced at PvM and going for their 628th kill of the same boss. This allowed them to kind of turn a part of their brain off, oh, just a little bit. Ground markers are usually coexisting with another plugin that is arguably more used than ground markers, and that's tile indicators. Tile indicators helps you with the fact that RuneScape is often lying to you. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, lying to you. The truth is hard for RuneScape. No, not your favorite game, RuneScape. Oh no, yes. Here's a character in the game, all right? You know, imagine that's you for a second. And you see this character and you're thinking to yourself, okay, here I am, I'm on this square. Well, I've got bad news for you and this newly adapted character of yours. There is a meteor fireball insta-death projectile right above you right now. And it appears that you have about until I unpause this to live. But take everything you know about everything and throw it away, because that is not where your character is. Simply not. He looks like he is, I know, but he's actually over there. Yeah. This is basically the game devs showing us what our brain wants to see, because when we think about travel on our legs, we do it in fluid motion from point A to point B. We don't teleport there normally. We have to walk there and see a walking motion. But the game engine doesn't really give a fuck. The game engine knows its internal clock. It knows the speed in which players walk to squares, 100% for walk, 200% for run. So if you run, you're gonna be 2 squares away immediately. And that's what we see here. It wouldn't make sense for your guy to just suddenly be over there. We've gotta show him going there. But this can be problematic for things like those. What if the situation was like this? Now, it looks like your player is safe, but as we've just found out, this is truly your character's last moments. And tile indicators also has destination tile and hovered tile, which can be huge for PVM. Because I mean, normally if you just click between 2 squares and you know, you're in a fast-paced situation, it's really a toss-up of which one you're gonna end up on. Hovered tile and destination tile kind of eliminate the possibility of you sending your character somewhere that you really don't want to send them. I actually see a lot of players using this, even players who don't like using plugins like Bodhi. Sometimes you just can't tell where your guy is. It's definitely raised the skill cap overall for how good a player can become at PVM. Ground markers eventually got updated to be more customizable with the width, opacity, the colors, even labels. And some players capitalized on this, using them in very unique ways. Wow, look at that. Oh, golly, isn't that impressive? Oh, look at that one. Wow. But the sweaty players have used this customizable ground marker feature to essentially expose the weak spots of the implemented game mechanics. They've completely isolated the bossing experience to a grid and the clock. It's just a different way of looking at the game. And once this really complex focus started, kind of began a separation from player and RuneScape. It's hard to explain. Let me take you somewhere real quick. This big fella here is a Bandosian general, heavily involved in the historic God Wars. After betraying his 2 allies during their fight against Zamorak, he found this little corner of the cave here. And has been there ever since. And he is not a force to be reckoned with. We're talking about a level 624 who stood at 9 feet tall as just a boy. Well, not as a boy, he's an orc, or org, if you want to be politically correct about it. This guy doesn't even bother bringing a real weapon to fight you. He uses his fists. And when you take him on, it's not just him. He's got his trifecta of cronies around him that will stop at nothing to get you away, repel you from the forward operating base of Bandos, for the glory of the big high war god. All glory to Bandos. Or you can disregard everything I just told you because it no longer matters the way you're about to play. We're gonna go ahead and dumb Bandos here down to nothing more than just a 3x3 entity. Funny enough, this grid in particular can be exploited in a variety of different, very goofy looking ways. Goofy but effective. We got the 6-0, 7-0, 9-0. I'm sure someone's got an 8-0 somewhere. I can't find it. I don't even know what it means. Assuring efficient kill count per hour using minimal supplies, taking advantage of this fucking buffoon. You got all your tiles placed nice and pretty. You even got a green one telling you this. It's like your little start button, you know, when you're restarting your little circle you're running. These are two entirely different video games. We're growing up. We've been here a long time, and as we grow up, obviously our imaginations aren't able to just constantly be running and immersing us into this crazy, intimidating boss room of this fucking 24-foot tall ogre. Org. What's an org? Why'd you guys call it an org? Especially on a boss like this, that, you know, if you're going there to either make money or you're hunting for an item and you're there 600, 700 times just killing it over and over and over and 9 rain and over. Our imaginations just can't carry us like they used to. And when RuneScape does give us these occasional immersive feelings that get our imagination running even as adults, it's super special, but it never really lasts because our brains don't do that anymore, and it sucks and it's sad. So that's why we have to appreciate it when it happens. Perceiving General Grardor's room like a grid is a way to turn this 16-year-old piece of content into this challenge that tests your precision and your timing. It's a different type of dopamine releasing from us. And no matter what Jagex releases, there's always going to be a way to skip a phase or negate all damage, or just simply making the kill go as fast and smoothly as possible by having a certain pattern. That's just the way that some players see the game. I don't. I for sure don't, but they do. When I go into a boss room, especially for the first time, the last thing I want is this collage of tiles on the ground explaining something, where to go at what times, where to start, how to do it, where to hide. When I went into Corrupted Gauntlet on buy release recently and just wanted to get 1 KC.
You should get the plugin, Jim. After this, I'll tell you what it is.
Pissing me off.
It's called the Gauntlet plugin.
I'm using it.
It's the wrong one, man.
Why?
Because it'd have bullshit popping up.
I don't want bullshit popping up.
He doesn't have that stuff enabled, but he is using the plugin.
My pal is telling me, you know, turn the plugin on. You'll see Hunlift's little radius. You'll know where not to step so he won't stomp on you. Turn on true tile so you can see where you actually are. I never turned them on because I wanted buy release to face off against Hunlift. I feel like adding plugins give that sense of separation between the actual video game of RuneScape, at least the version that I play. I like the idea of just a RuneScape dude fighting a RuneScape boss. There's something special about it to me, and I don't want plugins kind of interrupting that compound. My staff and my bow against his fucking war crimes, whatever he's using, just pure RuneScape happening in this boss room. And when I did finally get my 1 KC, god damn, it felt good. 2 months ago, there was a lot of ruckus from the high-level PVM community. Players that are inarguably amazing at RuneScape. They know the mechanics inside out. They have massive amounts of kill count on every single boss in the game. It's what they do. It's what they look forward to. It's their thing. There was a point brought up that Jagex just hasn't focused enough on PVM, which I can kind of understand. I mean, we've gotten 3 raids in how many years? 7 years. A lot of bosses are simply just given slight tweaks, like a hard mode version, but their main focus was just Jagex isn't making things challenging enough. They're not putting things out. They're challenging their huge fucking IQs enough, which is bullshit. Do not agree. I would love to have you explain to any player that isn't a part of the high-level insane PVM community that a 500 TOA is not challenging enough. These guys have played the game so much that it's almost fogged their vision with what they're actually doing, what kind of skill it takes. Even with all the plugins in the world, if you were to give an average player all their layouts, all the instruction on how to do it, it's still incredibly difficult. Some players are just really deep in the grid vision, we'll call it. The whole discussion got me thinking back to, you know, what's the last memorable old school moment of PVM that I really remember being excited about, not just me, but excited because the people around me were also excited. I immediately thought back to Wooks getting the first Infernal Cape, and I thought about it for a little bit. I'm like, why that one? Why is that what I remember most? A lot of amazing PVM achievements have happened since then. It was like almost 7 years ago. Why did that feel different? So I went back and watched the last 15 minutes of the fight when it was Wooks versus Zuck. I'm watching Wooks just be more concentrated than any human beings concentrated on anything before. And that's when I realized I feel like I'm watching RuneScape. Wooks versus Zuck. There's nothing marked on the floor. There's no square underneath him. There's no tile telling him where he actually is in the game. He doesn't have the healers highlighted in all blue so they're easier to click. It was just the greatest player to ever log into the game against the toughest challenge that the RuneScape universe has ever offered in a 1v1 showdown in front of an audience that could fill up an NFL stadium. It was just an authentic, pure RuneScape experience. It was just RuneScape. And don't get me wrong, I think Wooks has seen RuneScape as nothing more than a grid for the last 20 years. He didn't need to visualize it on his game client, which is what made what he did incredible. Now that I'm thinking about it, that's basically what ground markers and tile indicators are. It's Wooks vision, like a fucking John Malkovich experience, but it's Wooks. You're seeing old school through his eyes by putting ground markers. You finally get to see what it's like being him, and you still suck, which is amazing. Even with his vision and the way his brain works, you're still misclicking. It's mind-blowing watching you. But like I was saying, his world first Infernal Cape was the last time I can truly remember just the whole community being excited about a big PVM-based achievement together. It felt like it was the last time we were really seeing RuneScape. But I mean, thinking back, Rendy and Exact getting level 3 fire capes, are you kidding me? It's fucking amazing. But at the same time, as cool as it was, it didn't feel like it was a level 3 versus Jad. It felt like a level 3 versus game ticks. It wasn't versus RuneScape, it was versus game engine. It just hits differently. It's an incredible achievement. I don't want to discredit Exact and Rendy. The average human could never pull that off. It's just how it feels, I guess. I truly think that some of the high-end PVMers have a lot of potential to just turn the plugins off and create more of a spectacle around these amazing things that they're doing. And recently there was a string of bosses released alongside Desert Treasure 2, and I kept seeing clips pop up of this awakened Leviathan, and the mechanics of it are nutty. It's cool. It's a really cool looking boss. If you could see it. This, whatever this is, it's gone too far. In my eyes, this is where I draw the line. If your game looks like this, if you're streaming yourself, recording yourself, playing the game, and your boss room looks like this, I'm sorry. I'm not watching it. I'm not going to look at it. And it's not because I don't think that you are doing extremely challenging content that the normal player couldn't pull off. It's extremely impressive what you're doing. It's just, I don't play that video game. It's not the one I know. It's not the one I want to see or play. Keep doing your thing, brother. Fucking rock on. But I'm not there. If I want to watch someone click around on colorful squares and focus on getting the timing of shit right, I'll watch Guitar Hero videos. I know some of you are probably like, oh yeah, okay, Jim, why don't you go do it? Go do the Awakened Leviathan with no plugins on, since you're doing all this yapping about it. It's impossible to do it without plugins. Are you kidding me, Jim? You're an idiot. You look like an idiot all the time. Go, Jim, do it. I want to see it. No, I can't. I'm sorry. I can't personally prove to you that it's possible to do it without plugins. I can't find any video. You may have a point here. I can't find any video or stream of someone doing this without plugins. I think you raise a point. But also, I'm about to destroy your point because I got a cold one to do it for me. It's a really hard boss to do. A cold one's a different breed of fucking lunatic. I understand people using the ground markers for this thing. Maybe if it was like 3 years ago, I might have been standing here saying, you know, it takes away the integrity of the kill. You know, oh, when I was your age in a Caliphate Queen, we used to wear Verox and hit it with a flail against its prayer it had over its head. I did ask a cold one what he thought about it.
I'm not gonna lie, I cannot remember the last time that I've hopped into an old school RuneScape stream and seen no tile markers anywhere. I will show you some tile markers I had from the last time I came here. You know, we'll let the tiles speak for themselves.
I also asked Will about it, who brought up probably one of the strongest points of this entire video.
I firmly believe that ground marker made me realize, like, oh, none of this matters. People shit on people for using like inventory tags, but is it really that different to like have fucking... Look at this shit, bro. I have 1 trillion tiles marked in this room. I marked these tiles like day 3 of this boss being out. If I can speak frankly here, let me just say one final thing. Maybe if ground markers weren't a thing, then Jagex would have to design a floor that doesn't look like you just fucking use the paint bucket tool. There is no human that plays this game that can fucking discern this tile from that tile.
But yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was really interesting to think about. I think we're in a really unique point in the old school timeline where the PVM culture is just really complex to the point where plugins seem very necessary for a lot of players. It's a very interesting direction that we've gone in. It's definitely changed the game. It influenced a lot of dev decisions with what they know players can do. But I think that's all I've got on it. Let me know what do you think about all of this kind of game you prefer playing. Do I have anything to say? I guess I can use my own channel to talk to you about anything. I mentioned it on our Bank Standing podcast, which we recently brought back. In November, I will be doing a non-RuneScape video right here, not on a side channel. At the same time, I'm also working on probably the biggest old school RuneScape project I've ever put out. I will probably be making announcements in my Discord to help out with it, because I'm gonna need a lot of community help to make this idea really work. So if you're not in my Discord, feel free to join. I'll have more details about it in November. I'll probably post in the community tab on YouTube and on Twitter. So I'm sure if you have me anywhere outside of YouTube, you'll see me mention this community project, and you might be able to help out with it. I think that's honestly, I mean, that's it. I'll see you guys soon. Take it easy.